What's going on, guys? Oh man, it's awesome out here. So beautiful out here in the snow, just doing some snowshoeing. And today I'm gonna talk knots. I feel like knowing how to tie certain knots is an essential skill to know. So I'm gonna go over 5 different knots in this video and demonstrate some ways to use them and how to tie them. So let's get to it. The first knot I'm going to demonstrate today is the Marlin spike hitch. Depending on how you do the trucker's hitch, you can use the Marlin spike hitch in that. You can use the Marlin spike hitch to create a ladder if you have enough rope. You can use it for hanging a backpack, which I'm going to demonstrate in just a little bit. You can use it for hanging whoopee slings on your hammock straps if you sleep in a hammock. Just so many different ways to use a Marlin spike hitch. I'm going to go ahead and tie this Marlin spike hitch just down here on this end. Then I can put my stick through it for my backpack. With my hand facing out, my palm facing out, I'm going to pinch it between my fingers and my thumb, and I'm going to just kind of wrap it around, my hand around, and grab this line that's above it. And then that basically creates the Marlin spike hitch. This loop here is what you would put a toggle through, and I'll just demonstrate that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put this stick that I cut earlier for my backpack and sticking that through, so it's like a toggle, and then it just goes around it like that. So that is the Marlin spike hitch, and that's going to hold my backpack when I go to put my backpack straps on here. It's going to hold really well, and it's going to hold my backpack off the ground. So the next thing I need to do is do another Marlin spike for the trucker's hitch. I'm going to do that fairly close to this line because I want room to be able to raise and lower my backpack so I don't have to lift it every time to get it over this stick. So I'm going to use another Marlin spike hitch. So again, just pinching it, going around and grabbing through, pulling that through. And now the reason I wanted to create that loop is because I'm going to use it to feed this line through for the trucker's hitch. And then I can raise and lower this off my backpack off the ground, and I can put it in my backpack in here really easily. So I've gone ahead and fed this stick through my backpack straps, and I'm going to go ahead and be able to raise this up now. So let's do this. All right, so there we have it. My backpack is off the ground. So yeah, the Marlin spike hitch is awesome. You can see how creating a ladder would be easy with the Marlin spike hitch. You could put a rope here and a rope here and have one rung of a ladder already. All right, the second knot that I wanted to go over is the Lark's head, or some people call it the girth hitch. You've probably used this multiple times and maybe didn't even know that you were tying a Lark's head or a girth hitch. But basically it's super simple and comes in handy quite a bit if you're needing to put something on a line just to hang something, or I use it quite often for my headlamp to wrap it around my ridge line in my hammock so it's hanging down, and I know, one, I know where it is, and two, I have a light that's hanging down if I need a light in the middle of the night. But basically you need a loop. This loop's really long, but whatever size loop will work. It just depends on how far you want it hanging down. But basically you put the loop perpendicular to whatever it is you're going to wrap it around. So if it's a tree, if it's a branch, if it's a rope like this, a ridge line, then you would just pass it over and pull the rest of it through, and then tighten that up. So that's what a Lark's head looks like, or a girth hitch from this side. Let me do it really quickly on the other side, just so you can see both sides of what this knot looks like. There it is from the other side. You can pass it either way. It doesn't really matter. It's going to do the same thing. And you can slide this along a line if you're doing it on a ridge line like this, or if you clothesline or whatever it is when you get to camp, if that's something you want to have to be able to hang stuff from or organize or whatever. So yeah, definitely something that comes in handy. The third knot that I wanted to go over today is a clove hitch. This comes in handy quite often. You can use it for things like securing a line to the end of a board if you're going to lash them together. You can use it for even in place of the Marlin spike in this situation right here. You can use it for the PCT hang, for where you would put your toggle through when it's going back up and hits the carabiner. Multiple different reasons for a clove hitch. I find that there are two ways to tie a clove hitch. One is if there's an end, like that you can actually get to, and another way is if this was continuous and you couldn't put 2 loops around it. So I'll show both of those ways to tie this. So if there's an end to whatever I'm putting the clove hitch around, I will usually use this method. You would take a line and you would make a loop in it. Basically, I just roll it toward me. So I create this loop and it's crossing over toward me. And then I would take the other end, this end here, and I would make another loop, but I want to make sure that this line, if I roll it toward or away from me, it's going to put the crossover. I want this cross to be underneath, to be on the same side as this one. So I would just do it the other way, roll it toward me. So now I've got this kind of thing going on where this is, both of these right here are on the same side. And it basically creates sort of like a figure 8, so to speak, in the line. And then what I do is with those away from me, you just want to pinch with those 2 crosses right there. I just pinch these 2 loops away from me, so that like that. And then you've got this thing going on. It looks kind of like a mess right here. But once you go ahead and put it on your, whatever it is you're wanting the clove hitch to go around, then you can secure this and you can dress it. And that looks pretty neat. Looks like a clove hitch. You know if it's a clove hitch if there are 2 lines parallel, 2 ropes parallel to each other, and there's one crossing over. So that's one way to tie the clove hitch. And then to get it out, you can just pull on it and it comes out. It's pretty simple. And now I'll demonstrate the second way to tie a clove hitch. If there's not an end, if this was just a branch that attached to a tree and I couldn't reach the other end of it or whatever, and I wanted to tie a clove hitch around it for whatever reason, then this is a way. You just have to do it without doing loops, basically. So I'm going to take this line and I'm going to just rest it on whatever, or around whatever I'm doing. You want to bring it around and then you want to cross over. I'll do it like this. So you're going to bring it around and you're going to cross over. And then this end, the same end, is going to come back around and it's going to go under. And that creates the clove hitch. Again, the same thing. You've got 2 parallel lines running and it's crossing over. An easy way to remember this way is over, cross, under, under. It's easy to forget. So all these little ways to be able to remember how to tie something, it's super easy and super helpful. So again, over, cross, under, under, and that's how I remember how to tie the clove hitch. Okay, the 4th knot, we're moving right along. I love knots. These are just knots that I just will sit there and tie sometimes just while I'm sitting around at home. So kind of can nerd out with these things. But anyway, this knot here is called the timber hitch. I think anyway, timber hitch, timber knot. Timber hitch. This knot is one that can be used for dragging like a fallen tree if you need to move it out of the way, or if you just cut down a dead standing tree for a fire, something like that. The timber hitch is fairly simple. You just put your line over the top or around whatever it is you're going to haul, and then you want to take this working end and wrap it back around this line that you just that's going over the top here. You don't want to put it through here just because that would be an overhand knot and that won't allow you to cinch it up. So then you take this, you feed it back through this loop you just put around the log or whatever it is you're hauling. And then you want to wrap that in the same direction. 1, 2, 3 or 4 times, 2, 3 or 4 times, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. The more you do, the more friction it'll have. But and then you want to just take this and just pull it, and that'll cinch it up, and then you can pull, and that'll hold on to that, whatever it is you're gonna haul. If it was me, I would, create a loop in the end of this line, something I can hold on to, and even maybe use a Marlin spike hitch or a Clove hitch that we just learned, and be able to have a stick that I can pull with to get even better leverage to pull this thing, whatever. Obviously this isn't a big branch, but I didn't want to cut down a tree for no reason today. But basically, yeah, so if you were to get a branch and stick it through there and do a Clove hitch around it and be able to hold it and pull it behind you or whatever, then that's going to be super helpful to use in conjunction with the timber hitch. All right, here we are, the 5th knot. This one is called the Arbor knot. This one comes in handy a lot if you're trying to haul like a bundle of wood. If you've cut it at a distance from your camp and you want to haul back just a bunch of twigs or basically bundles of wood back to camp or wherever. It can be used also like the timber hitch, similar to like the Clove hitch being able to be used in place of the Marlin spike hitch. I find that it's good to have a number of knots in the arsenal and test them out and see what works for you in whatever situation. Whichever one you can remember is probably the most important, I would say. Yeah, if it's a knot that you're going to forget and it doesn't help at all. So practice some knots and see which one helps you. Anyways, let's get to the Arbor knot and see how this one works. You can use it with one line. I like to use it with 2 lines, and I'll show you why. But basically, I'm going to lay out 2 lines on the ground. The next thing I'm going to do is grab my bundle of wood, whether it's twigs or logs or whatever it is, whatever I'm going to want to carry. And I'm going to take this line, and in one end of it, I'm going to create a stopper knot. Now, one thing I do that's a little different than what I've seen other people do is I create a stopper knot, which is basically tying an overhand knot in it. But what happens is when you put tension on that, that's going to bind up, and it's going to be really difficult to get out. So I do what I'm calling a slippery overhand knot, and that looks like this, an overhand knot. But instead of pulling this line all the way through, I'm going to just do a loop and leave a little bit of a loop in there. And the reason for that is so that I can get this knot out. All I need to do is pull that and it's out. But even if it binds, I can just pull that hard and it'll come out. So there's a reason for that as well that I'll show you in here in just a second. But now I'm going to just wrap this around and I'm going to cross it under. And then basically I'm going to come back over and form an overhand knot around this other longer line. And that's all done in the line that has the stopper knot. So now I'm going to tighten that up. But the reason this is nice is because I can just go like this back and forth. And what will happen is this tag end line, this piece right here with the stopper knot, will work its way up to here, and it'll tighten it and won't allow it to loosen that easily anyway. So, and you can really kind of just get that really tight. And now I've got the bundle of sticks, even just with one line. I'm going to go ahead and do that with the other one. Again, creating a stopper knot, a slippery stopper knot, which is what I'm calling it. I don't know if that's a technical term, but it's what I'm calling it. So basically creating a loop in that so I can pull it out and it's done. It doesn't bind. It's almost like just like a slip knot, but you have the shorter end being the adjustable part. Now again, wrap it around, cross it under, cross this back over and through, creating an overhand knot around this longer line. Then you tighten it up, and again, you can start ratcheting it down. It's just wet, so it's kind of like getting a little bit more friction on it. There we go. All right. So now I've got both of these on here. I'm just going to do a quick sheet bend in here and show you the reason it's nice to use two. Just did a sheet bend just to make a loop. Now I've got a little handle to be able to, you know, carry this bundle of sticks back to camp and have a good fire. I did want to go over the reason that I said to put a slippery knot in this stopper knot is to be able to pull it out and get it out really quickly, as I mentioned earlier, which I'm going to do here. But what happens is sometimes it's difficult to get this thing out, this knot, and so but doing that will make it so much easier. It gets rid of that knot that would have been right there. Like in this situation, you've got this big knot right here. But once you pull that out, gives you a whole lot more to work with as far as getting that undone, so you don't have to cut your rope, and then you can loosen it, undo the bundle, and then be able to get this out a lot easier than you would if that was an overhand knot and it was kind of bound in there really tight. So that's one of the reasons that I use that slippery, again, the slippery stopper knot, basically. There's probably a technical term for that, but maybe it's just a slip knot kind of thing. But yeah, so that's one reason I use that. Well, there we have it. 5 knots that I find myself using quite often in the backcountry, whether I'm backpacking or doing bushcraft stuff or, you know, building a shelter, whatever it is. Even just hanging, as I demonstrated, hanging my backpack so it's off the ground. I will say the number one thing I think is find knots that are going to work for you. As I mentioned earlier, you can use a Clove hitch and a Marlin spike hitch for the same thing in many different scenarios. However, if you aren't remembering the knot, or if it's not a knot that you will use, then it's pointless. So grab a rope, start to learn some knots, sit around at home, wherever it is, and just tie some knots. You'll find one that it's kind of therapeutic and just kind of takes your mind off the day-to-day stuff. I hope all of you stay safe out there. I hope you all are staying in good health and being taking care of yourselves. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully it was educational for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.